Hey folks, welcome back to Ndaba Africa. This is Chris once again. The topic of this video is an after-action review, a summary, a report card for groups related to or involved in the Senecal protest events that took place on the 16th of October, just 2 days ago as we entered the weekend. So let's get right to it. All right, a lot of people running around talking about who won, who lost. Well, there were clear winners and clear losers based on my own analysis of events that took place in Senecal on Friday. Now, this all started because of the violent domestic terrorist murder / assassination of 21-year-old farm manager Brendan Horner in the Northern Free State, who was stopped, stabbed repeatedly, beaten severely, tied to a post and hung. The knife used to stab him left in the ground as a message, a stark warning, a terrorist message to people who live on the land in South Africa to vacate it, to get off the land. So this occurred bit ago, and then what happened was on the 6th of October, two suspects who were arrested, one of whom had been arrested twice previously and released on bail, another who had been arrested 16 times and was still walking the streets of South Africa. Those are the people who are suspected of committing this vile murder. They were to be arraigned on the 6th of October. A large group of farmers and farm supporters, farm workers, and others, black and white South Africans, arrived in Senecal in the Northern Free State to hear speeches, to offer their prayers, to just be seen and have a presence to show their revulsion at the horrific racist nonsense that's going on in South Africa directed against minorities, but particularly against white commercial farmers, but also directed against all farmers in general. But this is a serious scourge in South Africa, which is ignored by the African National Congress, denied by the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, famously in a Bloomberg broadcast 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago in New York at the United Nations Summit. He lied when he said that there are no farm murders in South Africa, there are no white farmers murdered in South Africa, there are dozens of them murdered and hundreds of them attacked on a repeated basis. Not to mention Indians and coloreds and blacks also murdered in rural South African farms. But let's talk about the grades for what happened here. The Economic Freedom Fighters, the political party masquerading, well, the folks masquerading as a political party whose primary purpose seems to be racialize South Africa and attack racial minorities with impunity, verbally and otherwise, and cause chaos in the country, attacking stores like Clicks, petrol bombing, throwing Molotov cocktails at stores with no consequences, no arrest to their leader who incited this violence, Julius Malema. Shows up with a 26-car police escort. Now, he is a member of parliament, but a member of parliament doesn't get a 26 police car escort. That's more than Donald Trump or Barack Obama gets when they travel abroad. 26 cars? Give me a break. He's not the head of state. He was introduced by his buffoonish members of his party as the president. He's not the president. He's the president of his party, perhaps, but he's not the president of South Africa. Speaking of which, where is Cyril Ramaphosa? Shall we issue a milk carton with his face, his image on it, so that people can look for Cyril Ramaphosa? Do we need to issue an Amber Alert wondering out where Cyril Ramaphosa is at, who's completely disappeared from the scene, along with his feckless ANC government? Are they too busy pilfering the $4.3 billion that the IMF gave, or the $1 billion from the new BRICS Bank, the new development bank, the BRICS Bank, or perhaps the $285 billion that came from the African Development Bank in late June, plus the other money in July? Where is that $5.6 billion of assistance gone? Where's it at? Is that what the ANC is preoccupied with now? They're certainly not preoccupied with governing the country, because there is no governance right now. It's all being run by an unelected, unaccountable, capricious, an undemocratic body known as the National Coronavirus Command Council, which issues dictates criminalizing the conduct and behavior of South Africans at a whim, just like that, turning people into criminals. Julius Malema, 26 police car escort. But we'll talk more about that. So a lot of people are claiming that the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, won a victory. No, they won a tactical victory at best. What they proved is they're able to go to townships around Johannesburg and take buses, successfully hire the buses, load a bunch of people on there, giving them sweets and drinks and food and maybe some pocket money, and bus them down to another location where they can stand in the streets and march around with the polo shirts and T-shirts they've been handed out, and dance and make racist statements and throw rocks at people and attack motorcyclists and damage public property. Remember, Julius Malema told the international media or the press that he was going there, and he called his fighters out, is what he said. That's what he tweeted. He said, my fighters assemble, attack, attack, attack. This is not exactly peaceful, non-violent protest. This is what he called for. And he told his folks to come out there. And he told them to come out because it's his job to protect state property. Well, he's full of malarkey. It's not Julius Malema's job to protect state property. That's the role of the South African Police Service, the municipal police departments, the South African National Defense Force, the intelligence services, and South Africa's bureaucracy. He's part of none of those things. He's just some buffoon who sits in Parliament spewing racial vitriol, race baiting, and that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. Listen to his own words. Listen to what he called black Africans. Now, he did it in a cheeky fashion, so he'll get away with it, but he doesn't care about people. So he's inciting people to violence, and he gets away with it. He is there. His party successfully goes there and shows their presence, intimidates people, which is what they meant to, menaces other people. But when asked questions like, why are you here? Young, innocent, relatively innocent-looking people supporting the EFF, a young lady was asked a question by Big Daddy Liberty, who was on the ground reporting, and he said, why are you here? Because of the case. What are you here for? Against racism. What racism? I'm not sure. The whites? Absolutely clueless. Absolutely clueless. And this is who came there. Only the elites who were around the economic freedom fighters around their leadership actually knew why they were really there, it appears. Most of these people simply were there to cause chaos and have a good time. And they were quite a dangerous crowd, but they get a C- on the grading scale. The EFF won a small tactical victory, proving that they can assemble people, bust them from one place to another, and they can cause chaos and destroy public property. Successful. Success. But they didn't win any arguments. They didn't win any arguments. We'll see how the press coverage of this is in international media, but C-, a tactical victory at most, one that will soon be forgotten. The people of South Africa won a great strategic victory here. They did indeed. All the hyperbole, the rhetoric, the ratcheting up of emotions taking place in the build-up to 16 October, especially from the economic freedom fighters, but not exclusively, also from people on the right side of the aisle as well, but especially on the left-hand side of the aisle, ratcheting up, and all of the talk about there being a bloodletting, a civil war breaking out, South Africans killing each other on the streets, did not happen. It did not happen. That spectacle did not happen, in large measure because of the idiocy of the EFF, but also the ineffectiveness of the groups who were gathered there and what their intent wasn't really clear. At least to the public, it wasn't clear. So the good news is South Africans, not the country, not the government, but South Africans, the population, 58 million South Africans, won a great strategic victory in that Senecal did not become the touchstone for a civil conflict on that day. Now, the African National Congress gets an F, an abject failure. First off, their police were inconsistent. The police where Big Daddy Liberty was at in town were effective. They were organized. They were in position. They were well prepared. But then the police who were behind the EFF toy-toyers and crowd that surged and attacked the motorcyclists and threw rocks at bystanders and journalists, the police sat in their nyalas, their armored vehicles, and sat behind a grove of trees doing nothing, paying no attention. Also, the police stopping vehicles all over, approaching Senecal, checking for weapons. There are reports that there was a weapon confiscated, but we heard of one arrest. We don't know who that was. No indication from the police whether that was actually EFF or someone else. But we do see footage of police inspecting vehicles and looking for weapons. That's the most effective thing they probably did. But where is President Cyril Ramaphosa? Where are members of his cabinet? Well, I'll tell you where they are. One member of his cabinet, Bekatsile, the Minister of Police, was present in Senecal at the courthouse. And guess where he sat? Right next to Julius Malema, a person with no standing for this court, no standing whatsoever, no business being in the court. Cyril Ramaphosa is missing in action. When we hear from the government of South Africa, most frequently it's from the National Coronavirus Command Council, people like Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma and others on the Command Council who are making the decisions that aren't legal. They're extra legal by circumventing the Constitution and the Parliament with this appointed body that no one voted for, determining the people are criminals in South Africa. It's ludicrous. It's beyond belief, but it is the reality in South Africa. The African National Congress was completely absent in this situation. The one poor hapless ANC person we saw out there wearing an African National Congress T-shirt was actually surrounded and accosted and nearly beaten to death. They menaced him as if they're going to beat him to death, a young black man. And they ripped off his shirt, his ANC shirt, and tried to burn it, but they were idiots. They couldn't even light it on fire, so they tossed it on the ground. I understand later they did burn it. But the point is that no ANC, except for that one lone young man who probably feared for his life, thought maybe he was going to be necklaced or murdered or something like that, given the menacing behavior of the EFF supporters around him because he was wearing an ANC shirt. And then they started chanting, ANC must fall, ANC must fall. Of course, they were ridiculous. Beyond this, let's talk about the farmers. The farmers themselves have won a victory. I would give them an A or an A minus, perhaps, because this was not about a massive turning up of farmers. This was about some people showing up to show their concern about this. Those who went there to stand up to the EFF and cause chaos, you're not part of this conversation. That's not the farmers I'm talking about, whether you were farmers or other people from other organizations. I'm talking about the farming community in general. It's got attention, people aware of it, maybe not about Brendan Horner, but about the issue in general across South Africa, and exposed people in groups for the failures and the colluders that they are. And I'll talk more about that. So the farmers also get an A because this was an A minus, because this was an operational or arguably a strategic victory as well, but at least an operational victory for the farming community and for the plight of rural South Africans, because there are indelible images from this event on that day that can be used repeatedly in information campaign against this hideous race-based vitriol that's coming from the economic freedom fighters and segments of the African National Congress. It is long past the time, well overdue for this to be fixed, and this can be fixed now because of these indelible images. Specifically, we see massive crowds of economic freedom fighters who claim that they came to Senekal to protect public property because the rampant and dangerous farmers destroy public property, state property. That's what they're there for. Only to see them damage the rubbish bins made of concrete, smash them, tear up the streets, rip down signs, and damage state property themselves. They didn't protect any property. They're simply there to intimidate. That is plain for the world to see, for all but the least objective people on the planet. Only those who are dyed-in-the-wool leftists and liars will believe any narrative other than the fact that the truth here is that they damaged state property. They protected nothing. So that image is there. We have the imagery, we have videos, we have photographs of them doing this, of them leaving a mess behind and walking away. And then the also lovely image of farmers, black and white, who were there picking up the rubbish and the refuse that these people left behind, falling right behind them. Brilliant, brilliant done. That, along with the singing of Kill the Boer. You have people coming there at a hearing for two people accused of violently murdering in a domestic terrorist act a young 21-year-old farming manager. And they're screaming and shouting and singing and making sure it's doing it in English for the cameras to shoot, shoot, shoot to kill, shoot to bull, shoot to kill. Well, that image is indelible. That's not some election rally that EFF is doing. That is actually their conduct, their behavior in the moment, at the time, right there, when they're supposed to be there to protect state property. They're there screaming to murder white farming South Africans, well, all farmers, Boers, to kill farmers in South Africa. When Malema denies on the stage that there are even any farm murders taking place. The irony and the juxtaposition of his lies on the stage, toying and screaming to his crowd and getting them whipped up in a frenzy, denying farm murders when they're at the arraignment of two suspected farm murders for an actual farm murder that happened. Just priceless how that can be used. And finally, the most important image and why this is an A minus, and let's just bump it up to an A because of this image. You get an A for the farming community and for rural South Africans. That's what they get out of this, because the indelible image of Becket Cele, the Minister of Police, sitting there with his gangster-like hat in the courtroom next to Julius Malema, a man who should be charged with all kinds of crimes for violating the South African Constitution, for his hate speech, for his race speech, and for denigrating people, crimina injuria, all these things should be things that the government should be looking at for him. Fomenting violence, inciting terrorism, nothing. And that man sits right next to the Minister for the Police. You want to talk about collusion? You want to talk about an inappropriate situation? That is the most iconic image that will come from this. The collusion between the gangster state paradise of Becket Cele, South Africa, and Julius Malema's inciting people to violence, hatred, and racism, and seeking civil war. That's the indelible image. And for that reason, the farmers and the farming community and rural community of South Africa get an A. Now, there are a couple other grades I hand out here. One is for these other groups like the Boer Legion and others. I'm not really going to issue a grade because there's a lot of confusion, a lot of disputes about what was actually said, what actually occurred. I'm waiting for the facts. I'll actually be interviewing Hein Marks from the ULA, the United Liberation Alliance, one of the Cape secession movements from Western Cape. He was present there, and going to be interviewing him in about 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and talking to him about this. So I'm not going to give a grade to groups like that until I have more facts. And also the South African media, I'll give them an F, because once again, their piss poor coverage, their abysmal reporting of what happened here. and the lack of coverage. And finally, the international media, I give an F. So far, the only significant piece I've seen on this has been from the New York Times, and it's a tissue of lies, distortions, and misrepresentations as to what happened on the 6th of October and what happened on the 16th of October. Not a single mention of any of the racist, race-baiting comments that Julius Malema made. They call him a firebrand, as if to venerate this clown. Yeah, that's what the New York Times did. And I'll be making a video refuting the New York Times idiotic article on the situation in Senecal and how they misrepresented and how the entire security situation and leaving people in the hands, the fate of people preying on them and getting away with it with state-sponsored support. That's right. How can we say it's anything else? Beckett Seeley's there sponsoring and sitting right next to his good buddy there, Julius Malema, having a conversation in the court where an arraignment's taking place over the murder of a young farm manager, a white one. And of course, farm murders don't occur, according to Julius Malema, right outside when he cheered his crowd on and said it doesn't happen. But that's why they were there. And Beckett Seeley talking to this guy when he should not be talking to him. What should have happened is President Cyril Ramaphosa should have had him in his office on Saturday morning, standing there and saying, what exactly happened yesterday in Senecal? Why did Julius Malema, a simple member of parliament, have 26 police cars escorting him to that courthouse? And what was he doing in the courthouse? He has no standing. He was not the aggrieved. He was not the victim. He is not involved in the prosecution. He is not a member of that community. He has no standing to be there. If you want to make the argument he's standing because he's in Parliament, then where are all the other people I just mentioned? They weren't in the courtroom. Why weren't they in the courtroom? That's interesting. And then I would have said to the Minister of Police, Mr. Beckett Seeley, well, thank you for your explanation. Here's your letter of resignation. Here's a pen. Feel free. Let me open it up for you. Feel free to sign your letter of resignation and resign from your position in my cabinet. And while you're at it, submit your own letter of resignation from the African National Congress because you are a disgrace. That's what should have happened. Of course, that's not what happened. Right now, Cyril Ramaphosa somewhere, I don't know. We're putting an Amber Alert out to find Cyril Ramaphosa. It's like, where's Waldo? He's completely disappeared. And when he does reappear, he'll blame the farmers, which is what he did last week. Folks, that's been my video on assessing the grades and the fallout. So let me run through it very quickly once again. EFF, minor tactical victory, C-. The victory will be forgotten shortly. The people of South Africa, an A+, strategic victory for them. No bloodshed, no civil war touched off as a result of the 16th of October. The African National Congress, in collusion with the EFF, perhaps, it seems apparent based on the photographs we saw. F, absent and dereliction of duty. That's what's going on here. The ANC is they're derelict in their duty. Farmers, farming community, and rural South Africans, an A and A+. Well done. Well done. Well behaved, good behavior, and also the strategic messaging that will come out of this is fantastic. Civil rights groups and others who are present, undetermined at this stage. I'll make a determination later on what grades they get. And finally, the South African media, F, international media, and F. Folks, if you're not a subscriber to Chris Wired Africa, take a second and smash the subscription button right down there. Toggle the bell icon so you get notified of updates for my live streams and videos. And also, feel free to leave a comment. And then finally, I ask that you smash the like button because that's what drives viewership. Thank you for your time, for your patronage. God bless, and have a good day.